Welcome everyone. My name is Ted and I'm here to talk to you today about how I became a Muslim. I was born and raised in the United States. Specifically, I was raised in Bayfield, Wisconsin, and it's a small town pretty much like any other small town in the United States. We were about like 600 people at that time, and we were just right on Lake Superior. It's the typical type of small town area, and I was raised pretty much like anybody else in my environment. Now, growing up, I came from a background where we did go to church every Sunday. I was a Catholic along with the rest of my family, and the vast majority of my town really didn't believe in the doctrines of the Catholic Church or in Christianity. We did have a belief in God. You could ask most young guys and they would say that they believed in God. But that was about it. The doctrines of the church weren't really widely held by the majority of the population. So that's kind of the background that I came from. And when I was growing up, I didn't really care much about the world, to be honest. I was in my little bubble in my small little town until 9/11 happened. And I was about 14 years old at that time, and it really woke me up. I went through this phase of being a hyper-nationalist for a few months until some members of my family calmed me down and gave me different books about the world, about American foreign policy, and so on and so forth. But that's kind of where I discovered that there's a wider world out there. Now, life continued for me until I was about 16. When I was about 16, I started to get more involved in politics. And I started to become more interested in a lot of different things that were happening in the world. In particular, what drew my attention was the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. And I just never really quite understood what was going on and why. And as I started to learn more, I didn't understand why the Palestinians wouldn't give up. It just was bizarre to me to see this beaten down population withstand so much oppression for such a long time. The reason I bring it up is that while I was learning about the Palestinians and about the Israelis, I came across this picture of a Palestinian woman in hijab. She was wearing hijab, a scarf, and she also had a M16 slung over her shoulder. But the thing that was interesting about the picture is that she was raising a book. It was this Arabic book. So what is that? What is this book? I showed it to my teacher, and he informed me that this is the book of Muslims. This is the Quran. And I said, what's that? There must be something in this book that has given her the strength to be so bold and to not give up in the face of all this kind of tyranny. So at the age of 16, I secretly went to a bookstore 2 towns over, and I bought a copy of the Quran in English. And it was probably the most taboo book to have in my town. I think I would have been in more trouble to have that book than to have any kind of other, paraphernalia. It would be considered like paraphernalia. So I hid the Quran in a paper bag in my jacket, and I came back home. I actually took the bus so that my parents wouldn't even know that I was gone, because we did have a vehicle at that time. And I started to read through it, and it made absolutely no sense to me. Because I grew up reading the Bible, and with the Bible, it starts with in the beginning, and then it goes all the way to the very end of the world, and then after the end of the world. With Quran, it doesn't have that approach, so I didn't really know what I was reading, and also I believe that the translation I had wasn't really this high quality translation. So, long story short, I took that copy of the Quran and I put it on the doorstep of a used bookstore. Because again, I didn't even want to be caught with that in my hands. Nonetheless, things in the world still weren't jiving with what I was seeing on the news. Like, we were hearing about the war on terror, and we were seeing like the bombing of Iraq, and these types of things just really bothered me. And I felt like I couldn't get a grasp of what was happening. I still couldn't get a grasp of what was happening. So my first exposure was that. My first exposure to Islam was buying this copy of the Quran to try to find out about what's going on in the world. The second exposure that I had to Islam was Malcolm X. Malcolm X was taught in my high school. I believe I was 17 or maybe 18 years old in my English class, and we studied his speeches as a form of American rhetoric, to learn more about how he gave his speeches and his eloquence and how his speech patterns were different than the rest of American orators. So we studied his work, and at the very end of the class, after we had completed, practicing his speeches, we actually watched his autobiography, the Spike Lee movie called I think it was just called X. And there's a part of that movie that shows the Hajj. The Hajj is this pilgrimage to Mecca in which, the pilgrims, I'm sure you've all probably seen it now on TV, but we didn't have that chance to see it when I was growing up. And so it was my first time seeing it. It was something beautiful to see all these different people from different backgrounds worshiping God. And it was something that blew me away. So my interest in Islam was still there, although I didn't really know how to go about learning the religion. Then later, before I entered into college, I did have a bizarre dream. And I mention it because I think it's worth mentioning. I dreamt of the end of the world, and it wasn't chaos that we know will happen, but it was actually this moment of silence before the beginning of the end of the world. I should say it was before the beginning of the end of the world. We were all assembled around almost like what would be like gymnasium bleachers. We were just sitting, and we were sitting in rows around the Kaaba, around the black house in Mecca, the house that was the house that was built by Abraham and his son Ismail alayhi salam, peace be upon them both. And we were sitting there, a huge group of us. It was night, the stars were out, and we were all watching this one man. He was wearing the typical Saudi outfit. At the time I didn't really know about it, I just remembered it was a scarf. And he had a long white beard, and it was waving in the wind. There was a slight breeze, and it just kept waving. And I just remember he was explaining to all of us about what we need to do and what will happen next. So that was something that I never forgot until today, and I just never knew where that came from, and it was kind of mind-blowing, come to think about it now. After high school, I finally got the opportunity to move out of my home and live on my own. I actually moved in with 3 other guys in an apartment at the University of Minnesota, Duluth, and we started college. One of them was my friend from back home, and then two new guys from Minnesota. And at that time, I had my own personal space to really, explore and to learn and to not really feel as restricted by my surroundings or by my family. And I decided to, again, look into Islam. What's going on? What is this Quran? I wasn't satisfied with the first copy I got. So I got back online and I ordered an additional copy, and it was an amazing copy. It was from yislam.org. I'm not sure if they're still in business, but it was a great copy that they sent me for free. I read through it from cover to cover, and it just clicked. And there were with Islam, there are just basic principles about it that settled with me. It's like I found something I had always believed in, but I never had a name for. The main tenet of Islam that really struck me were the oneness of God. That God isn't divided into 3. There is no Trinity in Islam. There's no real confusion about who the Creator is. That he doesn't have a son. He can create a son. He can create a man. He can create Adam without a father or a mother, and he created Prophet Jesus, peace be upon him, without a father. So these types of things are miraculous in nature, and they're possible for God, and it doesn't take away from who He is, and He doesn't have to enter into a human body to make these types of things happen. He just says, "Be," and it is. Also, the thing that really attracted me to Islam was the perfectness of God. That God is not limited, that God is not confined, that God is not in a human body, or these things that I really had a difficult time believing as a Catholic child. That God is perfect in every way, that His knowledge encompasses all. These things really struck me as like, wow, this is what I've always believed in, that the prophets were perfect people. They didn't have these weird problems that you find in the Bible, like Noah being a drunk, and the problems with Nabi Lut, with the prophet Lot, or the problems with all these, with Prophet David. They all had these strange issues that you don't see with the prophets in Islam. That the prophets in Islam, which is the religion for all mankind, is they were perfect people. They were people that we can look up to, that we can aspire to be like. And the seal of the prophets being Muhammad, peace be upon him. When I learned about the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, I found a man that was shocked by the revelation at first, someone that couldn't believe that this was happening to him, someone that needed to be consoled by his wife, Khadija, at that time. And it just felt like this human character, it just shoots out at you. This is authentic, this is real, this is what happened. The miraculous nature of what was given to him, and his confirming of everything that came before. Those were things that really stuck out to me, that made me feel like, you know what, this is it, I found it, and I wasn't really looking for it. I was trying to figure out the world, I wasn't really looking for a religion. I don't really come from a religious background. Like, I did go to church, and I did believe in God, and I still do, but I just never really had like this conviction, I'm a Christian or I'm a Catholic, like that. In fact, it was quite the opposite. I was an atheist, but I just wasn't into it. Long story short, guys, I felt like this is the religion for me. I learned about how to become a Muslim online, and I was scared that once I had faith settle in my heart, I was scared that I was going to die upon disbelief, because if you believe that Islam is the truth, you need to go and take the testimony of faith. And that's just bearing witness that there's only one God worthy of worship, and the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the messenger of that God.
My beloved brothers and sisters, giving dawah to non-Muslims is one of the most beautiful and noble acts a Muslim can do. It means inviting others to understand the truth about Islam, not by force, but through kindness, wisdom, and good manners. When you speak with love and respect, people will naturally feel curious and open to learning about the message of Allah. Remember, our goal is not to argue, but to inspire hearts with truth and compassion. Your character and conduct are the most powerful form of da'wah. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was known as Al-Amin because of his honesty and good manners long before he began preaching Islam. When non-Muslims see that you are honest, humble, and kind in your words and actions, they begin to wonder what makes you different, and that's when their hearts open to Islam. When giving da'wah, focus on showing mercy, patience, and sincerity. If someone disagrees or rejects what you say, don't get angry or discouraged. The guidance is from Allah alone. Your duty is only to deliver the message with goodness and leave the rest to Him. Even a small act like giving a smile, helping someone, or saying a kind word can become a seed of faith in someone's heart. Always remember, you never know whose heart Allah will guide through your example. Maybe a simple act of kindness or giving a Quran to someone will lead them to Islam and eternal success. Be gentle, be wise, and be patient, because your good conduct can become a reason someone finds the light of Islam.